Are you looking to make your special someone a personalized gift for Valentine's Day? Why not make them an animated card that you can send with your favorite messaging app? Show them that you really care by making something creative, fun, and personal. In today's class, I'll show you exactly how to make one, including how to send it to your smartphone when it's done. I'm including 3 different styles to choose from. There's a separate lesson for each one. So if you want to save some time, you can just watch the lesson for the style that you want to create. First, I'll show you how to set up your project so it can be viewed from a smartphone. Next, I'll show you different ways to animate hearts, which we can add to your card. Then we will animate some text that you can personalize, so they'll know you made it for them. Finally, I'll show you how to export the final animation and how to send it with a messaging app of your choice. The class requirements for this class are a computer or tablet along with the program Rough Animator. If you don't want to use Rough Animator, most 2D animation programs will be able to achieve the same results. A drawing tablet or stylus is recommended for this class as well, but it's not required. This class is for beginners, but animation fans and professionals are also welcome. And now, let's get into this class. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started in this class. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at some of the examples we're going to be dealing with. So we've got this one here, which is going to have a beating heart. And then we've got this one here where the heart is going to animate kind of floating up and away. And we're going to have this one where the hearts are going to kind of vibrate, and we're going to have a lot of them. So this will probably be the most complicated of the lessons. So let's go ahead and start with the easiest one here. And I'm going to provide this heart.png to give you something to trace, or you can just draw your own heart, but that'll be provided for you. So let's go ahead and launch Rough Animator here, and let's create a new project. And the first thing that we want to do is we want to change our format of the canvas. So normally a high def of 1920 by 1080 is 1080p. We want to switch those two numbers. So let's put 1080 here and 1920 here, and that's going to give us that vertical orientation of our canvas. And the frames per second, because our final result is going to be an animated GIF, let's go ahead and take that down from what we normally animate at 30 to about 10. And hit OK. And if I zoom out so I can see my whole canvas here. So here's the canvas that we're going to be using. So the first thing I want to do, let's go ahead and import that image of the first example. And that's going to allow me to grab some colors. So I'm just going to, I'm going to shrink this down and kind of put it off to the side. And then I'll click to drop it. Now I'm going to call this original. So if I hit the I key on my keyboard, that'll bring up the color picker. And I'm going to go ahead and grab this blue in the background. And you can use your own colors, but to follow along, this will make it easy. And I'm just going to go to the background layer here, and I'm going to click, and that's going to fill the whole background with that color. And I'm going to come back up here to original. Let's create a new layer. So modify layers, add empty layer. And let's call this heart. Let's go ahead and import the other image that I've got, this heart.png. And if I drop that right here, it's going to give me the size that I want to trace it at. So let's go ahead and pull that down. And that placed it on that heart layer. So I'm going to go ahead and add another empty layer so we can trace on top of that. And I'll just call this heart animated. So now I can grab my pen tool. First I need to grab that red. So let's hit the I key for the eyedropper. Grab that red. And I'm just going to drag that to my color palette here. And grab our brush tool. And I'm probably going to bring my brush size up a little bit. Let me go up to, say, 30 here. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And then I'm going to just switch to my stylus here, and I'm going to trace this heart. And I don't really want to make it like a perfect heart because we want it to have that hand-drawn look. So once I get it there, then I can switch over to my color fill here, the paint bucket tool, and I just want to check my tool options on this real quick. I want to go ahead and fills behind works, actually, is what I want. And we want to make sure that our fill expand has at least a couple of pixels here. So when I click that to fill it in, we get a nice clean look. So if I undo that, let me show you. If my fill expand was at 0 and I tried that, see how we get this white line here? So that's where the fill expand comes in. So let's undo that again. So even if I just do 1 pixel, it pretty much takes care of the problem except for right here. So let's try 2. I think I had it at 5 before, but 2 seems to, well, if I zoom in here, see there's still a little bit of a problem here. So that's why I had it set to 5 before. So you can play around with your fill expand, but 5 seems to work pretty good. And let's zoom back out. So there's our first drawing. So now we need to add another drawing after that. So add drawing, add after. And if I turn on onion skin here, then we can see the previous drawing. And actually, let me turn down, not original, let's turn down heart here. And with onion skinning on, you see we can see that original drawing. But here's a trick. Let's go ahead and grab the original large heart. Let's add a frame to this. So there. Now I can grab that original heart and I can scale it. And we're not really seeing it scale down because we're seeing that. But see, there's a little bit of a difference in the size there. So now I can trace this drawing up here on my animated heart layer. Let me just mess with the opacities a little bit and I'll zoom back in. Grab my stylus again and my brush tool and go ahead and let's trace the new heart here, which is smaller. And so we're going to do this a couple of times, and what this is going to do is it's going to give us different heart sizes, and we're going to animate these so that the heart is kind of pumping. And let's grab our paint bucket tool, fill that in, and let's do that one more time here. So we'll go, we need to add another drawing here to the heart animation layer. So add drawing, add after. Let's go back down here to heart. Let's go ahead and add another frame and let's shrink that even more. So let's grab my lasso tool, grab the heart, scale it down a little bit more. And we're not seeing that scale. I should have turned, actually let me undo that, do it. So if we make sure we're on the heart layer here. I've got my animation. We turn that visibility off. Let's go ahead and try this again. And then we just scale it down. And it's scaling from the center, which is what we want. And then I'll click off. And that should have brought it down. Yep, there we go. So I can bring my opacity back up on a heart animation. And let's go to this last frame here and let's trace this third drawing of the heart. Again, back to my stylus, brush tool, and let's go ahead and trace this. Okay, let's go ahead and fill that in with our paint bucket. And now we should have, let me turn the opacity off here on heart. We should have 3 different heart sizes. So I can turn onion skin off real quick here. So with these 3 drawings, that's enough for us to animate. You can add a couple more if you want, but for a GIF, we don't want a ton of frames because that's going to make the file size larger. So we want to try and keep our animations to a limited number of frames. And in our case, we're going to just use 3 drawings to make this thing loop and animate. And let's go back to our original 3 drawings here. And let's just play this real quick. Let me zoom out. Let me get rid of the original, because that's a little distracting. Play it one more time. So there's our heart pumping. Now to me it's a little fast, so let's go ahead and do this. Let's add a frame to each of the drawings here. And let's play it again. I like that speed a little bit more. But what I'm thinking, let's go ahead and play that again. What I'm thinking is we go ahead and have that heart kind of give us a pause at the beginning and the end maybe. So let me add another 2 frames to the beginning and let's try that. And that's kind of giving us the effect that I'm looking for. The timing, it's giving us a little bit of spacing between the pumps, and I might even add another frame or 2, and let's take a look at what that looks like. So you can kind of experiment here with your timing just by adding or dropping a frame or 2. And that gives us our animated beating heart. So to finish this card off, what we want to do, let's go ahead and bring back our original. See, we've got the first letter of my name and the first letter of my wife's name on the top of the bottom. So that's the style that we want to do here. So I'm going to use this as just a reference, and I'm just going to come back up to make a new layer. So let's modify layers and add an empty layer. And I'm going to call this P for Patrick. And let's go ahead and let me zoom in a little bit. Grab my brush tool, and I'll grab my stylus again. And now I'm just going to draw a letter P here. And what I probably need to do, I need to make that line a little bit thicker. So I might go up to, say, 50. Let's try that. Something like that. And I need to draw that 2 more times. So if I hit add drawing, add after, that gives me a new frame that I can draw on. If I hit my onion skin, I can see, and I'm just going to try and trace this as good as I can, but we don't want it to be perfect or we're not going to get that animation look. And if I want to add another frame to do my next drawing, if we look down here in our preferences, we've got a little checkbox here, allow forward button to add a drawing, and you can turn that on and off. And what that does is on your keyboard, you've got your right arrow key. And if you were to just hit that right arrow key right now, it creates a new frame. But sometimes you don't want that because you're using your arrow keys to go between drawings. So if I turn that off and I hit my right arrow key, nothing happens. But I can hit my left arrow key and it's going back in time. And now I can hit my right arrow key, it's going forward in time. So you want to pay attention to this little checkbox here because it may be adding frames that you don't want if it's turned on. So anyway, so we've got our third frame here, and let's go ahead and trace our third P. Something like that. Okay, now I need to get this to sync up with the animation we've already got. So one way that I can do this is I can click Edit Multiple. I can drag this to grab all 3, and I'm going to add 2 frames there and 2 frames there, add it up to 3 frames. So now this is going to animate in time with the looping of the heart. So let's go ahead and zoom out and take a look at what that looks like. I keep forgetting to turn off my original layer, so let's do that real quick and then take a look. So the P animating seems a little slow to me, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop a frame from each one. Actually, I might take it back down to the ones. Let's do that. And I'm now going to try and cycle this. So let's add after, make a cycle. Again, we're going to add frames to that cycle until we get it to loop 3 times in sync with the animation of the heart. So let's take a look at what that looks like. And I like that a little bit better. The timing on the P wiggle is better, more in tune of what I was looking to do. But I noticed that the P is a little high here on the canvas. So if I want to move all of these frames that we've got, here's how I would do that. Let's go ahead and just grab these. All we need to do is move these original drawings. So these 3 right here. So if I were to hit edit multiple, let me grab those 3. Then I grab my little lasso tool here, and I just want to make sure that I'm grabbing all of that. Don't want to cut off any part of the P here. And now I can just click and drag this down, and it's going to drag and move all of those frames at the same time. So if I click off, that should have moved my whole... Oh, I had to click one more time to apply the changes. So now if we play that, you can see that I brought the P down and it's not so tight on the top. So we're looking pretty good. The last thing I need to do is repeat this with a G. So I can do the whole thing over like I have just done. Or here's a little time saver. I can duplicate this P layer and just change the P for a G. So if I hit modify layers, I'm going to duplicate layer timing to blank drawings. And then I don't have to recreate the cycle, and all I have to do is draw a G on these 3 drawings. So let's rename this as a G, the first letter of my wife's name, and let's zoom in here. Oop, had the wrong tool selected. Let me grab my hand tool. Okay, so I need to draw a G right in there. And let's grab the brush tool and just do that. Something like that. And I will go to the next drawing, turn on my onion skin, and draw it again. And one more time on this 3rd drawing. And you want to make sure you have onion skinning on. I'm not too happy with that, so let's try it one more time. With onion skinning on, you can see your previous drawings. So there, now I can turn onion skinning off, and I can zoom out. And let's go ahead and take a look at what we've done here. It looks pretty good to me. The G might be a little bit large, so if I wanted to, we can just do that same trick here. We'll edit multiple, we'll grab all 3 of those, we grab the selection tool, and we just make sure we grab all of those, and then I'm going to shrink it down a little bit. And then I'll click to the side, and I have to click one more time up here in the timeline to apply the changes. So that's a little tricky thing to remember. But now that that's done, if I play that, and there's our animated card. So this is basically done and ready to send. So let's go ahead and save our work so we don't lose our Rough Animator file here. And I'm just going to call this PNG card, or maybe Valentine's Day card. And then let's save it to the desktop. So we've saved our work. Now we need to export it. So let's go ahead and hit File. We're going to export it as a GIF. And if I click that, so we get 4 different resolution options here, from 100% to 25. And I'm going to export it as 120 and also as 25, and we can see the file size differences. So I'm just going to add a little 100 to the end here and export that. And now if I hide Rough Animator and I go to my desktop, go find that file. Here's the 100. Here it is right here. So let's take a quick look at that. And that looks pretty good. let's do an info and see how big that file size is. So that's almost a half a megabyte right here. So that may be a little bit larger than I want to send. And if that's the case, then we can just export it again and switch that resolution. But what that's going to do is it's going to physically make it smaller. So find the size that you want to get the size of the file to where you want it. And let's just try this. Put a 25 for 25%. Save that. Go take a look at that file. And that's physically smaller than that one. See the difference? And if I do an info on this, 71K here, so that's a lot smaller than the original half a megabyte. So those are some ways to get your file exported and get the right size that you need. And now we're ready to send this with our text messaging app from our computer, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a different lesson. So let's go ahead and work on our second card example. I'm going to go ahead and launch Rough Animator and create a new project, and let's keep this at 10 frames like we did the previous project, the other card, and let's keep the settings the same. Remember, we switched the 1920 and the 1080 to give us a vertical orientation, and we're going to click OK here, and I'll zoom out, and so there's our canvas. Now I'm providing some files, so let's go ahead and bring in File, Import Image, and let's go ahead and bring in this example 2. And now I can just click here to place it. Now, this is just another design that I created to give you another example of a card. But we're going to have this heart animate kind of floating up and shrinking away. And it's going to loop doing that. So what we want to do is, let's call this sample. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer. So add empty layer from modify layers. And on this layer, I'm going to bring in another image, and that image is going to be that same heart.png, and this is just going to give you a heart reference to trace from. And I'm going to shrink this down before I place it, and I'm going to actually bring it down like that, and I'm going to click to place it, and let's go ahead and turn our sample down, and let's go ahead and just call this heart. And this is where we're going to start, and I'm going to kind of make it so that the heart goes up and shrinks as it's kind of like evaporating into the air. So let's go ahead and add another layer here. Modify layers, add empty layer. And we'll call this heart animation as well. And let's go ahead and add a couple of drawings to this. So add after, add drawing, add after. And let's do that a couple more times, and maybe one more. So that's going to give us 5 drawings here that we can animate our heart with. So I'm going to bring the opacity down on my heart layer here. We still want to see it. And we'll zoom in here. And I want to make sure I'm on my animation layer. And let's go ahead and trace with our brush tool and make sure you have the right color selected here. And now I'm going to switch to my stylus, and I'm just going to go ahead and trace this heart again. And like we did in the last lesson, we're going to click on the paintbrush tool, check our fill expand in the tool options here, make sure it's about 5, works pretty good, and we'll just click inside to fill the heart. Now, the next drawing, let's go ahead and switch to that, and let's make sure onion skin is on. And let's go ahead and move this down a little bit. And what I know I want to do is I want to have this heart kind of shrink and go and move up. So I'm just going to do this by hand. Grab our brush tool, and I'm just going to draw a heart here, something like that. And let's grab our paint bucket tool and fill that in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the heart layer and I'm just going to extend it the full 5 frames here. And that's going to give me a little bit of a reference of where we started. So let's go ahead and grab our 3rd frame here. And I'm going to grab my hand tool, pull us down just a little bit. And with the brush tool, I'm going to grab my stylus and I'm going to go ahead and draw another heart. And I may actually want to bring my brush size in the tool options down to about 30. Let me try that. Something like that. And then I'll grab my paint bucket and fill it in. Let's move on to the next drawing and grab the hand tool to move us down a little bit. And back to the brush tool, and we'll do another heart. And paint bucket to fill that in. And let's go to the last drawing. And again, let's move the canvas down a little bit. And if you hold your Shift key on the keyboard on any tool, it turns into the hand tool. So we don't have to keep clicking on the hand tool. But anyway, back to the brush tool. And let's go ahead and do another smaller heart. Something like that. Paint bucket, fill that in. Let's go ahead and zoom out and see what we've done here. And we'll turn off onion skin and hit play. And actually, let's turn the original heart opacity down and play that. So that's giving me the effect that I want. The timing of it may not be perfect, and I may want to add another drawing to that. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's do one more drawing here and add after and turn the onion skin back on. And then I'll zoom in and grab my brush tool and let's draw one more. And we'll fill that in. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one more drawing here. And I'm going to have this kind of do a little pop animation. So let's grab my brush tool, and I may even want to drop that brush size down to 20. And then I'm just going to draw a few lines here, something like that. And let me do one more, and we'll do something like this. And that's going to give us a little pop animation look. So if I zoom back out and we turn onion skin off and let's play that. And I think I've got these two frames juxtaposed. So what I can do is just go to this final one here and I can click that one time and it's going to swap those two. So let's see how that looks. So the timing of this, what I might want to do is have there be a little bit of a hold on this first drawing. So let's go ahead and select it. I'm just going to add 2 frames to it, and let's play that and see what we get. I think what we need is actually a little bit of space at the end here. So let's add a drawing, add it after, and I'm going to hold that for a couple of frames. And that's going to get us a little bit of breathing room before the next heart comes in. So let's take a look at that. I think I'm still missing something. So, and again, this is the experimenting stage. I think I might want to have this big heart come into existence somehow. So let's go ahead and I want to get a drawing in front of this because that's where I want to animate. So if I'm going to click on, let's do add after, but I want to move that to the front. So there's a button for that, and it's right there. And let's turn onion skinning on. Zoom in here. Just do some kind of a little heart here, kind of like coming into existence. And let's see what that does. Not quite the effect that I want, so let's go ahead and keep playing with this. Let me bring that down. Let me add a couple of drawings here, and I'm going to have this kind of grow into the big heart. So let's go back, onion skin, and now I need a little bit of reference here, so let's bring in the original heart. So I need to go from the small one to the big one in a couple of frames here. So let's grab our brush tool, and I'm just going to make another heart. And then I'm going to go to the next drawing and do one more, and I need to go back and fill those in with my paint bucket tool. There we go. And let's see what that looks like. And remember to turn my reference off, and let's play that. Now that I think I like a lot, but what I think it needs is a little bit longer hold time on the big heart. So I'm just going to add a couple frames and see what that looks like. Now that animation I think I like. So this heart was kind of bothering me. It's getting a little warped. So I'm just going to come in and clean that up a little bit. And I'll grab my eraser tool and just get rid of half of it. And something like that. Fill that in. And it looks like I'm having a little bit of a glitch. So what I'm going to do is select this heart and hit the delete key. So let's take a look at that. And I'm pretty happy with that. So at this point, we need to add in, let's go back and look at our original sample here. I need to add in some text. So I can use this sample as a tracing tool, or you can come up with your own font or just use your handwriting. But I'm going to pull the opacity down a little bit, and right above this layer, I'm going to add a new layer. So modify layer, add empty layer. And I'm going to add two drawings to this, 1 and 2. So here is our text animation layer. And if I go here, I know that I need to make the sample expand to hold these 3 frames, so I'm just going to add those right now. Go back up to the text animation layer, and I'm just going to come in here and trace with my brush tool, and I'm just going to grab black out of my color palette, and I'm going to speed this up because there's no reason to watch me do this in real time. But all I'm really doing is using my stylus, and I'm tracing all the words that are in black, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to trace them with my red tool where there's red. Let's go to the next drawing here. I'm just going to stay on black for now. And just to show you this in real time, what the process is. And you just want to get fairly close. You don't want it to be a perfect trace or you're not going to have much animation. And we'll go to the third frame here and do it again. And that's the process. So I'm going to go ahead and do this again real quick with the red on the same layer. There's no reason to use a different layer for this. And let's take a look at what that looks like when I'm done. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind here, I'm going to turn the sample layer off. We don't need that anymore. Is to try and pick a font that has a handwriting look to it, and you'll be able to trace this a lot faster than if it was some complicated hard font. But use whatever you want, or just your regular handwriting may even be better. And let's take a look at what this is going to animate like. But first, we need to have this loop to the full extent of what we've got here. So let's go to the last drawing. We're going to add one more. And with that selected, we're going to hit Make Cycle. And then we're going to make sure we're on the green frame here, and we're going to add to the drawing duration. And as we add, there. So if I had 15 frames, that gets us right to the end of where we needed to be. And let's go ahead and, well, let's just look at the animation of the text. So that looks pretty good. Remember to put in the name of your loved one or whoever you want to send this to, where it says name here. And now we need to combine the layer of the heart animation. So if I bring this up, the heart animation is not going to be placed where I want it to be. But let's go ahead and play it anyway. Well, now what I want is I want it to be up and in the corner here. So the way that we move this is we go to the heart animation layer. I'm going to go ahead and edit multiple. We're going to grab everything. So if we drag this little dropper or text tool, now I've got them all selected, and you can kind of see it here, right in here. So now I grab my selection tool, and I'm just going to try and make sure I grab everything on this layer. And now I'm going to shrink it down, and I'm going to rotate it a little bit. And I'm going to keep shrinking it because what I want, and now I'm going to move it because I want that heart to be right about there. Now we're pretty much where I want it to be, so let's just click anywhere outside. And now I'm going to come up here to my layers, and I'm going to click one more time, and that's going to apply the changes. And now, as we want that heart layer behind the text, which it is. Now, if I wanted it to be above the text, we can just grab this little double arrow thing and move it, but I want it below it. And I think we're ready to see what this looks like. So let's hit play. And I think that looks pretty good. So now we're ready to export this. First, I want to make sure I save it. So File, Save. And I'm just going to call this Card 2 and save that. Now, File, Export to GIF is what we want to do to get this ready to send it. And as I talked about in the last lesson, we've got 4 export options. And choose the one that's right for you. The higher they are, the bigger the file size, but the cleaner that the line art looks. So I'm just going to go ahead and export this at 25%. I'm just going to give it a 25 here to keep the file size down and save that to my desktop. Now we're almost at 2 seconds of animation here for this to cycle through. But being that it's a GIF, it's going to cycle when they view it, which is what we want. And also, that being that it's a GIF, it won't have any sound. But that's okay because we've got animation. And this will just keep looping and looping and looping. So that's our second example. And stick around for the next lesson as we're going to animate the most complicated of the 3 samples for your Valentine's Day card. See you in a second. Welcome to the next lesson. We're going to be animating our 3rd Valentine's Day card example. So let's get started. I'm going to open Rough Animator, create a new project. And same thing, we're going to keep our frame rates down to 10 because we're working with a GIF. And we want our 1920 and 1080 to be reversed so that we normally do. And that's going to give us that vertical orientation. If you know of a specific phone you're sending this to, you can change these to that exact phone to fill the screen perfectly, but we're just going to stick with this for now. And let me zoom out. There's our canvas. So let's go ahead and import the image that I provided of this heart.png, which you can download. And I'm going to click to place that, and I'll just call that heart. And let's go ahead and create a new layer. And let's bring in another image here. And this is just for reference. This is our card example. So it gives us something to look at here. So I'm going to hit open. And I'm just going to place this exactly where it is. So clicking off of the artboard places it down. And this, let's just call this example. And for now, what I want to do is I'm going to click the I key to give us that eyedropper, and I'm going to grab that background color. And you can use any colors that you want, but I want to go to my background, and let me just get these out of the way so we can see. And I'm just going to click with my paint bucket tool and make the background that color, because that's going to be throughout the whole animation. So let's go ahead and bring up our heart, and I don't really need the example right now. Actually I do. I want to grab a color out of that. So let's bring example up. Let's click the I key for the eyedropper. I'm going to grab this pink here. And if I want to add this to keep it in my colors, I can do that. And if I hit the I key again, let's grab the other color, and I'm going to drop it in there. And this is just colors that I've chosen. You can go ahead and make this any colors that you want. But now we've got our colors, so let's hide that example. Let's bring up the heart about. I just need to use it as a tracing example. And now I'm going to add an empty layer. And this I'm going to call heart animation 1. Because we're going to animate 2 different hearts. And let's move that on top of the heart here. And let me zoom in. And at this point, I'm going to grab my brush tool. And let me pick that darker pink color. And I'm going to grab my stylus, and I'm just going to trace this heart. Cool. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but we just want to get close so it looks like a heart. We'll grab our paint bucket tool and we'll fill that in. And again, like our other lessons, we just want to check our tool options and make sure our fill expand is around 5, and we want to fill behind. Those are the settings to make the paint bucket fill tool work correctly. So let's go ahead and add in a couple of more drawings. So add drawing, add after, and let's do it one more time. And let's go ahead and take our heart layer and add 2 frames to that so that it holds for the same amount of time. And now I'm just going to basically trace this 2 more times. So let's go ahead and do that now. And this is going to give us this vibration animation effect is what we're going for here. So let me just do this, and then I'll go back in and grab our paint bucket tool and fill those 2 drawings in. Okay. There we go. Now we have to think about how long we want this to last. So instead of making a cycle like I normally would, we're going to try and keep the file size of this down because there's going to be a lot of elements to it and layers. But we're going to try and keep this to just 3 frames of animation. We're going to modify layer and we're going to duplicate layer timing to blink drawings. And then I'm going to rename this heart animation 2. And this is just going to be the same thing but with a different heart color. So let's grab our different color here in our color palette, grab our brush tool, go back to the stylus, and let's trace this heart. And nothing wrong with having that hand-drawn look. Somehow I got an extra frame in there, so let me delete a drawing. Get it back down to 3. Okay. Sometimes things will happen and you don't realize you hit a button or a key on your keyboard, and you'll have to delete a layer or something. Just pay attention because things can change on you and you don't remember making a change. Like that just happened to me. I got an extra drawing in there and I don't know how it got there. So you just delete it and make sure your timings or your frame counts are the same. And let's go ahead and use our paint bucket tool. And we're going to fill those in. All right, so now we've got our 2 hearts and they're going to, let's just play it real quick. I've got a problem in here. What is my problem? Oh, I didn't fill in the first one. All right, there we go. Okay, so let's play that real quick. So that's basically gives us 2 vibrating hearts. So now I'm going to zoom out, and what I want to do now is the text layer. So let's go ahead and add an empty layer. I'm just going to call this text animation. And I'm going to turn the hearts off for now. But let's bring back up our example. And I actually want the example to be below the text. Okay, so that's how we drag our layers around, is by this little double arrow button. And let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit on the text. Again, I like to pick a font that looks like handwriting, or just use your handwriting. And we're going to grab a different color than the other 2. And I think that's more of like a purple. So let me just drop that into my color palette here. And grab our brush tool, and I'm going to start tracing the text. So I'm going to speed this up, and let me show you real quick. I'm just going to trace the text here like that. And I'm going to do this 3 times over. So let me set that up real quick. Let me add 2 more drawings. 1, 2. And that's going, and then we want to make sure our example lasts for those, so we have something to trace. So I'm just going to go ahead and trace this right now, and I'm going to speed this up a little bit, and we'll take a look at what it looks like. Okay, so I've got everything traced. Let's just zoom out a little bit, and let's take a look at what that text animation is going to look like. So we get that vibrating squiggle text, and that's the effect we want. So the next thing we need to do, let's look at that example, and we just need to try and place some hearts, those animated hearts, around in different sizes around the image. That's kind of the final step in creating this card. Let's go ahead and start duplicating these heart animation layers to place them where they need to be on the canvas. So let's select heart animation layer 1 here, and we're going to duplicate that. So modify layer, duplicate layer, and I'm going to rename this A. So 1A is how I'm going to know that that's a copy. So let's hit edit multiple. And see if we can't grab all 3 of these frames. We'll grab our selection tool, and I just need to grab that heart, and I know that I want one of these up here in the corner. So I'm going to shrink that down, move it over here, rotate it a little bit, something like that. Shrink it a little more, and just kind of get it about where I want it, and then I'll click off, and I got to click my layer here to apply it. And so now I've got an animation right here in that corner. So we need to repeat that step for all of the hearts that we've got on here to give us this animation look for our card. So I'm going to go ahead. I've got this size here, so let's duplicate this layer. And let's call this 1B. And this is just going to help us know where they that they're different than the original. And same process, edit multiple. Let's grab our selection tool and let's bring him over down here. And then I'm going to select off and select the timeline to apply the changes. So if I were to play this, you'll see these 2 hearts should be animating. It's kind of hard to see zoomed out here. Let's try it again. There we go. So it's working. We just need to go through here and make all of our hearts. So I'm going to go back to the original heart here. Let's edit multiple. What I want to do is I want to I've got to turn that opacity up. Edit multiple. There we go. And we want to grab that big heart in the center there. And now I know I want him to be over here, shrunken down a little bit, and rotated. Something like that. And then I'll click off, and then I'll click on my timeline to apply the changes. So now that heart's animated. So let's go ahead and just finish all of the red hearts here. So let's duplicate this layer, the big layer here, and looks like it might be down here. Let's call this 1C, and then I'm going to move him up just to keep my layers in order. And you can see it's starting to get a little complicated in my layers here. So 1C is what we want to deal with. Let's go ahead and grab that. Oh, I forgot to edit multiple. Edit multiple. There we go. And now let's lasso tool, grab all 3 of those hearts, and I'm going to move those down here and shrink that to get it close in size, maybe rotate it a little bit more. And that's probably good enough. So let's click here to apply the changes. And I've got 2 more of the, or no, 1 more of the red heart here. So I can, and it's about the same size as the one we just did. So let's go ahead and duplicate that layer. And let's rename that to 1D. Okay. Same process, edit multiple. Grab all those drawings, lasso tool them, and then we can move them over here. Rotate that. Get it right about there. Click off here. Click the layer to apply the changes. And let's go ahead and save our work here real quick so we don't lose this, because as the layers start building up, the file size gets bigger and you run into more risk of a crash. But I don't really find that Rough Animator crashes on me when I'm not doing a screen recording. So I think it's a limitation of my computer. more than anything, but we just want to make sure that we're saving as we go along here. And so we've got all of our red hearts here. So now if I want to get this file to not have so many layers, let's go ahead and do this. We're going to take all of these ones and we're going to merge them. So the way to do that in Rough Animator is you want to be on the top layer, and we're going to modify layer, and we're going to merge down, and it's going to merge 1D and 1C. So you're going to see 1C go, or 1D go away, and now we've just got 1C. And if we keep doing that, so we're going to merge 1C and 1B, merge that down. And now we've just got 1B. So let's do it a couple more times. We're going to merge 1B and 1A. All right. Now I'm going to leave the original heart there, but that gets our layers cleaned up quite a bit. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Now if I turn my example off, you can see my hearts there. Let's go ahead and just watch this animation. And you can see they've all got a little bit of a wiggle going, which is what we want. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. There we go. So that's working. Again, to save your work, let's go ahead and do the same thing with the other colored hearts. So I'm just going to hide these for now. And we'll pull the other colored heart up. We'll pull our example up so we know where to place them. And with Heart Animation 2, we're going to, let's go ahead and edit that, and let's move it right now where we want it to be. So it's a little big, so let's shrink that down. Give it a little bit of a rotation. Something like that. All right. And enter there. And one more click to apply the changes. Now, sometimes we've got the red heart on top, and sometimes we've got the lighter heart on top. So we're not going to merge these layers. As these layers, we're going to move them up and down to get them on top or below where they need to be. But let's go ahead and duplicate this layer. And we'll call this 2A, just like before. And let's go ahead and grab all of these and select them. And now we're going to move those up here and shrink it down. Get it somewhere about there. Click off. Click to apply the changes in the layers, and that's another one down. So let's duplicate this size, and we're going to bring it down here. So we're going to duplicate that layer. And we're going to name that 2B. Let's edit all of these drawings here. Circle them, move them down, and maybe shrink them just a little bit, just to something like that. Click off, click the layers, apply the changes, go ahead and save it real quick. And let's duplicate this layer. And we'll call that 2C. Okay, same thing. There we go. And I believe that heart is down here. So let's grab that and let's move that up to the top and shrink it down a little bit. Something like that. Okay, click off, click the layers, apply those changes, save it out, and let's duplicate that layer. Okay, rename this D2D, and let's go ahead and grab all three of these And grab those. And let's move that down here. Do a little rotation. Maybe shrink it down just a little more. Something like that. Click to apply the changes. And I believe that we've got 2 left to do, these 2 down here. So let's duplicate this layer. Let's change this to 2E. Select multiple. Oop. I'm not sure if this is a bug in Rough Animator or not, where it wants to expand that instead of edit multiple. That might be a good trick, is to start on the last and go backwards, because there's no chance of that frame be expanded that way. So that might be a workaround for this. Let's go ahead and grab our hearts here, move them down here, give it a little rotation, and drop it down. And click to apply the changes within the layers. And let's duplicate this layer one more time. So this should be our last one. So this should be 2F. And let's try this again. Let's select here, edit multiple, and then we should be able to grab. Yeah, that's a good workaround. So now I'm going to grab this, move those down, give a little rotation. There we go. Click off, click the layers to apply the changes. Okay, so we've got everything where it needs to be. Let's go ahead and take our example down, and we'll hit play just to make sure that these are animating, and they are, so that's good. And now let's go ahead and bring up the original colors and heart animation 1, which I believe this needs to be, let me look at the example real quick. Yeah, heart animation 1 needs to be above the other one. So let's just click and drag it up as far as I can go here. And drop it. And so now we've got some of the red on top and some of the red behind. Let's just take a quick look at the example here. We've got, I want to put that one and that one, the reds on top. So bottom and top corners here. So how would I do that? Let's go find this one and move it to the back. And the way I do that is we'll just turn the opacities down on these until we find our guy here. There he is. Okay. So I need to drag him to A below 1A. There we go. Now you can see they're not really overlapping, so I might want to just move this guy a little bit more. Okay. Let's select him, move him just like that, something like that. Click and save. There we go. A little more overlap. So these are the ways that you tweak and move things around and rotate and scale within Rough Animator. And let's go ahead and find this last one in the corner here and see if we can't move. Not that one. Is it this one? No. There he is. So 2B, I need 2B to be underneath 1 also. And I don't. One didn't drop it. There we go. All right. So now we've got all of our overlapping figured out. So let's go ahead and bring up our text animation layer. And we should be pretty good to go. Let's go ahead and hit play on this. And there we go. We've got our third squiggle animation card created in only 3 frames. So let's go ahead and let's save it real quick, and then we're going to export that as a GIF. And we've got 4 resolution options to choose from. Let's go ahead and pick whatever one you want. Remember that the higher the number, the larger your file size is going to be, and the larger the actual canvas of the card is going to be. So you're going to get better resolution out of 100%. But let's just go check this real quick, and there it is. So hopefully you'll use these techniques to create your own animated Valentine's Day card. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to send your created animated GIF to your loved one. So here's our samples that we've made, and what you need to do is once they're on your desktop, you'll want to install the software for the text messaging app that you want to use. So I'm going to use Telegram as an example. So let's go ahead and open up Telegram here. And I'm just going to use the saved messages to send it to myself, but it's the same if you wanted to send it, like here's my wife's account, I would just drop it into here. So you just grab the card that you want to use and drag it right into the window. And instead of adding any text, I just send it. And once it's uploaded, you'll get notified on your cell phone, or they will. And I just got it on my cell phone, and if I click it, it's animated on the cell phone. So that's the idea, is it'll just loop and loop and loop, and they'll be able to read their message that you sent to them on Valentine's Day. And it should be the same process for any text messaging app that you use. I know that it works with Telegram, WhatsApp, Signal, Messages, or iMessage on Apple. So any of those that you have on your desktop, you'll be able to send this way. So the last part of this is just to remember to send it at the morning of Valentine's Day. And that's it. So hopefully that helps, and I'll see you in the recap coming up next. Congratulations on completing this class. But we're not done quite yet. Let's recap what we've just learned. Today, we learned how to use the animation program Rough Animator. Things like setting up a new project and adjusting drawings using scale, rotate, position, and transparency. We also learned how to select multiple images in a sequence using the Edit Multiple button. And we even found a trick that makes it easier to select multiple images when starting from the right side instead of the left. I also showed you how to duplicate layers to reuse the same animation multiple times, ultimately saving you time. We also learned how to export an animated GIF using the 4 different sizes available within Rough Animator. And finally, we learned how to send our finished animated GIF from our computer to a messaging app so it shows up on our phones. If you watched all the way through, you saw 3 different techniques to animating hearts within Rough Animator, like the beating heart, the evaporating heart, and the vibrating heart. You also learned how to animate squiggle text so you can personalize your card. So now you're ready to make your own animated Valentine's Day card that you can send next Valentine's Day. Thank you for taking my class today. If you enjoyed this class, please consider following my profile. I hope you're able to learn something today to help you make your own animations. This has been Patrick Davidson. Thanks for joining me today. I hope to see you next time.